So, hi everyone. Am I audible? And can you is the screen visible? So please type in the chat box to confirm. So, am I audible? Can anyone just confirm? Great. So I hope the screen is also visible. Hmm. Okay. Thanks. So it's 6 p.m. So let's wait for few more minutes and then we will start the session. So, hi everyone, I'm Rupesh Kumar, and let's start this session on joy of programming using Python. So, welcome to this session. So, I am Rupesh Kumar, and today is Friday, August 9, 2024. So, let's start with this session. So, I hope my screen is visible and I am audible. So, yeah. So, at any time, if you face any difficulty, please type in the chat box. I'll be helping you out with any problems whatsoever. If you face that the network is not fine or is my screen is not visible clearly or I am not audible, then also you have to type in the chat box. So in this for the week 3 in this course, what you have learned is you learned about some string manipulations in Python. Then you understood how to use the random function in Python and how to use it for generating random values. And then you saw how to use Python programming language to code some basic or some simple uh, games like the game where simple games where the users has to predict the actual word given the jumbled version of the given word, and then you saw how to write code that like that imitates the crowd counting problem. It's a crowd counting approach used in very popular in statistics, and then you saw how to write evolutionary algorithms based on genetic program. So yeah, in this tutorial session, I'll be helping you out with some basic tutorial examples based on the topics that you have learned in the classes. Okay. So let's start. So this recording will be meeting will be recorded, and the recording will be shared with you after this end of the session. Okay. Yeah. So let's start with the first problem. Consider the following. So am I audible? Just once again, it's just a check. Am I audible and is my screen visible clearly? Fine. So let's start. Consider the following code snippet. Elements is equals to a blank list. So I hope every one of you is now familiar with lists in Python. Are you familiar with lists in Python? Most probably the most basic thing first. Are you able to by now are you able to write Python program using the spider ID? Is there anyone who is unable to do that? So everyone for these tutorial sessions and for this course, you have to make sure that you are able to use you are able to use run Python programs using Spider ID. To how to use setup Spider ID, the instructions are given in the NPTEL lecture for the week 2 itself. So you just have to install an account and then install the Spider ID. So for this session, I will give a brief introduction to the Spider ID window. Hmm. So when you open up the Spider window, you see this page. I hope it is visible to you all. Yeah. And here there is the toolbar where you can create a new file, open up a saved file, save a file if you have made any changes. Let's say import random. So you can save a file by or use a shortcut Control plus S, or you can use this save all files. And then in order to run a file, you can click on this run file. These are the relevant options that you need. On this left hand side, you can see all the scripts that are open where you can write your Python code. On the right hand side, you see two different panes. So top one is the console, and just shows that there is a console, and on the bottom right, you can see this console window. So in this console window, you can see it says line number one. On the top, it says Python version and then some information about Python. Then it says line number one, and the cursor is blinking here. So yeah, the straight line is blinking here. This means that you have to type a Python command in this line. So let's say if I type print hello world, then this command will be executed by the spider ID, and you can see it prints hello world in the next line. Okay. So let's expand this console ID so that the text is clearly visible to you guys. Let's increase the font size. So this is how spider looks. So yeah, someone is asking, can I use any other ID instead of spider? Yeah, you can use any other ID. It's up to you. So we are using spider because we want because it is very really easy, simple to set up for you to and to get started with programming in Python, and it does not require very much effort. So that's why we are using spider, and it's totally up to you whether you want to use spider or any other ID. So the first thing in the first program, I want to make sure that every one of you is familiar with these things. Is the first thing is lists. So every one of you, are you familiar with lists in Python? So what a list? Lists are used to store multiple objects slash values in a single variable. Okay. So lists are data structures provided by Python, yeah, predefined data structures that can be used to store multiple objects slash values in a single variable. Let's say I want to create a list containing names of the students. So and let's call it give it a name, student names. Then and let's say in the class I have four students, Ram. The first student is Ram. Then second student is Sham. Then the third student is Sita. And the fourth student is Geeta. So how can I declare a string? I can declare the list. I can declare a list to give the variable name a student name, that is student names here, and use the assignment operator, which is the equals to operator, and then use the square braces, opening square braces, and in the square braces, and then close the list with the closing square bracket here. Then within these braces, I can define the contents of my list. For now, this list contains the student names. So, and for our class has four students, and all these names are strings. So that's why I have written four different values in this string separated by comma in this list. So you can see Ram, comma Shyam, comma Sita, comma Geeta. Acha, okay, I want to ask one thing. Are you guys familiar with this double inverted quotes in Python? We are using this? So so can anyone tell me why can't I just simply write student names is equals to Ram, comma, Shyam, comma, Sita, comma, Geeta? Can anyone tell me what is the mistake here? Also, you can see on the left hand side, it says on this line on the left hand side, it says there is a red cross, and it says some code analysis and says undefined name Ram. Can anyone tell me why this line number 5 is incorrect and line number 3 is correct? Anyone? Or maybe line number 4 is incorrect and this is correct. Line number 3 is correct, and this is incorrect. Anyone? So yeah, string versus variable. So Python in Python, uh, s- Python strings are so yeah, Python strings are defined inside inverted commas or double inverted commas. So let's say I want to type Ram, then this is a perfect way, or I can type Ram like this. So this is how you define strings in Python. You can use single quote or double quote. It's up to you. Okay. So this is also correct, like on line number 6, and then line number 8 is also correct for defining strings. Fine. So this is how you define strings in Python. Ah, so this is how you define strings in Python. So in this line number 4, it says there is some issue with the line. The issue is you are not using quotes to define these values. Thus, Python interpreter interprets them as variables. And when they are variable and you already haven't defined these variables, thus it is incorrect. So this is how you define strings in Python. Okay. So, and this is a list containing multiple strings. So student names is a list. So let's find. Okay. The next thing is input function. Every one of you is familiar with this input function. So can anyone tell me? So yeah, I will take your queries regarding assignments and after 7:30. So yeah. So I hope every one of you by now is familiar with input statement. Input statement is used to input function, input method, the Python way. Yeah. Input method is used to take string input from the user to the terminal. So the input method is used to take input string from the user from the terminal. So let's say if I want to use a student name, so name equals to input, and I can give prompt to the user, enter your name. So this is how you take input from the user through the terminal. Okay. So this is the input function. Then let's say in the Python console, if I expand it, and you can see this, I want to ask user, so your name is equals to input, and give the user a prompt, enter your name. Then it asks the user to type in their name. Okay. So let's say my name is Rupesh. I will type in Rupesh Kumar. So now if you print the value stored in the variable your name, you will see the answer. You can see my name is Rupesh Kumar. So someone is asking what is the agenda for today's lecture. So in today's lecture, we'll be seeing how to use Python programming language to do some to solve some real life problems such as the basic problems in statistics and evolutionary algorithms. So that's the agenda for this lecture. For this, you need to understand some basic concepts such as lists in Python, what are functions in Python, what are loops in Python, how to declare strings in Python. So yeah. So this is how you define a string input function. Then loops. What are loops? Loops are statements used to repeat a set of instructions multiple times. So is my screen not visible? Someone is saying that screen is not visible. Can anyone confirm? So I have shared my screen. If you can't see my screen, so if this is happening for everyone, then there is an issue in on the network on my side. Otherwise there is an issue on network issue on your own side, on your side. So maybe rejoin the meeting, then see. Yeah, thanks. So what are loops? Loops are statements used to repeat a set of instructions multiple times. The most basic is the for loop. Let's say if I want to loop between I want to print numbers between 1 to 10. So I can use the for loop. For the syntax is for some variable name, let's say variable I, in range. Let's say you want to loop within some list, and for us we can use the function range to spit out some values. So I want to loop for 10 times, and what I want to do, I want to print the values from 0 to 9. So this loop will print the values between 0 to 9. Okay. So this is how for loop works. Then the next thing is some list operations. So some list operations. So the first one is, so are you familiar with this slicing operation? So let's say my list had some numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say my list has some numbers from 1 to 8, and I want to extract the value at index location 2. How to get it? We can simply use my list at 2. Okay. So everyone, please make sure that index in Python list start from 0. So let's say if I define my list here, let's see some live example. So let's define my list like this. My list. Okay. Okay. Let's define my list is equals to, don't know what to do with this. So my list contains some values. So let me zoom it a bit. Ah, so now you can the text is visible to you. So let's say my list contains some numbers, all the digits in the decimal number system. Okay. So how can you how to access elements in the list? We we can access elements from the list by using an index values. So what are indexes? Index value denote the location of elements in a list, and index the locations start from location 0. Okay. So what is the value stored at my list at location 0? It is 0. At 1, you can see the value is 1. So at location 0, position 0, the value is 0. At position 1, the value is 1. So how to access this? The simple way, the way is just define the index. Let's say I want to access the value at index 5. Then you call my list and use the square brackets and pass in the index value here. So it will return the value at this following index. Okay. So let's again open up my list. So my list contains these values 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's say if I want to extract a region some values from the list that are located from between some indexes, some locations. start index equals to 2 and 5. Let's say I want to extract the values present in this list that are present at the locations 2, 3, 4, and 5. How we can do that? How we can do that? Let's define start index. How we can do that? We can use slicing operation. So slicing operation is done by this colon operator. And on the left hand side of this colon operator, you have to define the start position or index from where you want to start extracting the values in the list and followed by the end position. Okay. So this is how slicing operator works. And by default, if you do not pass any value, then it returns all the values present in that list. So you can see it returns all the values. Now let's say if I want to extract the values starting from location 2, then what I can do, I can pass in 2 colon. This means start extracting the values starting from location 2 and do till the end of the list. So here you can see the output is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Similarly, if you want to get the values till the index location 8, so you use colon. So it starts from 0 and until 8. So you can see it prints the values 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Finally, if you want to get the values from the location 2 until location 8, you can use this function. Then you will see you get the values are 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is how this function works. So make sure on the left hand side, the starting point is inclusive, but the ending location is exclusive. It's not included. So that's why the value 8 is not being printed. 8. Hmm. Okay. So this is how slicing works in Python for Python list. So this was one thing. Then yeah, then another most important function is append. Let's say, so it should be end position plus one. So whatever end position you want to access, you have to add plus one and then pass it to the slicing operator. Then this is append function. So let's say my list was this, and I want to append a new value 10 to this. So I can simply function mylist dot append and pass in the value that I want to append. So then you can see my updated list contains the value 10 also. Okay. Okay. So now again, this is my list and I have these values. Okay. This is how we can append values to the list. Another important feature of Python list is you can append values from different data types. So let's say I want to insert string to this, it is also possible. So you can see the list contains some integer values up to 10, then RAM is appended at the last. Okay. So this is how Python lists work. Okay. So let's start with our first problem for today's session. Okay. Hmm. So the problem says code snippet elements. We declare a blank string elements, a blank list elements. It contains no values. Then you declare another variable n and take input. You ask the user to enter the number of elements. Then you transform that string into integer value and store that integer value into the variable n. Now what we are doing, we are looping through the values using the for loop through the variable I. So for I in range n. So basically, what does range function does? Range function returns a list containing values starting from the integer values from the given values. So what does range function do? So range, and let's say I type 10. What it does is Let's say I want to loop in the range 10 and I print I. So what it does, it basically returns integer values starting from 0 until this 10 minus 1, upper the value minus 1. So this is how for loop works. So in this case, we are looping till the number n. Then what we are doing, we are declaring another variable item and we are asking the user for some input. What is that input? Input is enter element space plus str I plus 1. So everyone, can you see this str I plus 1? What does it do? So are you familiar with typecasting in Python? Str of 10. It returns a string. So for any given input, it will transform it into strings. So I is an integer variable here. So I is an integer variable. Hmm. So I is an integer value here, and we are transforming it to integer. We are updating it by I plus 1 and then transforming the entire result into a string and then colon. So the user will get a prompt, enter element I plus 1, that is 1. If I is 0, then 1. And this will go on until I is n minus 1. Okay? And then we are appending the input strings to the empty list elements, and then we print the list element. So what does the following code do? Let's see. So it is taking the length of a string and then asking the users to enter strings, length of this list, and then it is asking the users to enter that number of strings and store those strings into the list elements. So what does it do? It takes a list of numbers as input, appends is to a list and prints the list of numbers. So this is incorrect. Then takes a list of elements and input, appends each element to a list and prints the list of the elements. No, it takes count of the elements. Yeah, that's true. First, we are taking the count of elements in the variable n, then followed by same number of elements as the input. So yeah, we are taking same number of elements as input in the variable in item, and then appends each element to a list and then print the list elements. So option C is correct. Option C. So what it does, it takes count of elements in the variable n, then it takes input into another variable item, then append that item to the list elements, and then loop this until the total number of elements is for the total number of elements, and then print the contents of the array elements. So option C is the correct answer. Fine. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. Anyone, do you have any doubts in this question? Okay, fine. Let's proceed further. So data structure is a way by which, so someone is saying, sir, can you explain why we wrote stri plus 1? Okay. So in the input function, whenever you pass some prompt to the user, that prompt has to be a string, has to be a string. So using in the input function, you pass a string that goes as a prompt to the user. Okay. So whenever you call the function input, you pass some string as a prompt to the user, and then user reads that string and gives some input. Okay. So this is how the input function works. And in this line of code, you can see it says, let's say I is some integer value 1, then it says item equals to input, enter the number of elements. No, the input is enter element. So it is telling the user enter element number. So the element number is given by I plus 1. So this is not allowed basically. Okay. So when you call this, it says can only concatenate string to string, not integer to string. So in this line of code, what we are trying to do, let's say we have a string uh, hello, and I want to concatenate a value to it. So every one of you is familiar with this concatenation operation in strings. So what it does is it appends these strings and returns the value. Fine. What happens if I want to concatenate an integer value to this string? This is not possible in Python. So you can't concatenate an integer value to a string. So how to do that? You can simply use typecasting. So you can use hello plus world plus, you can use str function to typecast any integer value to a string. So I am calling str over the value 1. So now this is correct. And it says hello world 1. So now in the input function, what you are trying to do, you want to try to tell the user that I want you to enter the element number, and that number is given by I plus 1. But since we cannot concatenate an integer to a string, we are using the str function to typecast the integer value I plus 1 to a string. And then finally, the result of those strings are concatenated. So is this clear why we are using str I plus 1? Fine. Let's go to question number 2. Data structure is a way by which you can organize or arrange your data. Which one of the following questions are true about list data structure? Okay, uh, let's go through the options one by one. So it is a flexible data structure. So yeah, list is a flexible data structure. So list is a flexible data structure. It allows us to add or delete elements from its Python. Python lists allow us to add or delete elements from a list. So it is a flexible data structures. Second option says, so yeah, it is mutable, basically. It is mutable. The second option B says elements could be added to a list. So yeah, we can use append, list.append meant to add elements to a list. Then elements can be subtracted from list. So yeah, you can subtract elements from the list. I think there is a pop function. So my list dot delete. Okay. So yeah, you can use pop function. So let's say my list was like this. I want to pop RAM from this. So I can simply call my list dot pop RAM. Acha. Okay, fine. So this is my list, and you can call my list.pop and the position from which you want to remove the element from the list. So the position for RAM is I guess 10, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I can pass in the index. You need to instruct the Python interpreter that you need to remove the element stored at in position 10 in the list my list. So it will remove that element and return that element. So you can see now RAM is lost. So this is how you can delete uh, from the list. So we can use list.pop index to remove element from the list. Okay. So this is not a list is equals to blank is empty list. So yeah, this option is also correct. So all the options are correct. Okay. So yeah. Does anyone have any doubt regarding lists in Python? Fine. Let's go to the next question. So consider the following code snippet. L is a list that contains three strings, Amar, Akbar, and Anthony. So we already saw how we can declare strings containing names, declare lists, Python lists containing strings. Now what we are doing, we are calling a function, print function, and we are passing a set of strings to it. So in Python, you can use print function. So you can use print function to print something. So let's say if I want to print some string, so I can use the string print function like this. If I want to print multiple objects, I can use the comma operator here. So hello one. So what it will do, it will simply print these two values appended by a space. Okay, concatenated with a space. So I can also pass two strings here also, hello comma world. So it will concatenate these two values and then print them. Okay. So this is how print function works in Python. So what it says, print L at 2, the list element at location 2 or index 2, then then concatenate it with the string is brother of, and then concatenate it with the string the list element L at index location 1, then concatenate with and then finally concatenate with the list element at location 0. So what should be the answer? Can anyone tell me? So L at 2 is basically Anthony. L at 1 is Akbar. And L at 0 is Amar. So what should be the answer? The answer should be Anthony is brother of Akbar and Amar. So Anthony is brother of Akbar and Amar. So correct answer is option D. Okay. Anyone, do you have any doubts regarding this question, or should we proceed further? So I believe no one has any questions. So let's proceed further with the next question. Consider the following code snippet. Now again, we have a list of numbers stored in the variable numbers. It contains five values: 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Then we are using for a loop for variable I in range. So integer values starting from 0 until length of the list numbers minus 1. That is, length of the list numbers is 5. So for I in range 0 to 4, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, what I have to do? I have to do numbers at I multiply equals to 2. So every one of you is familiar with this shorthand operator. Shorthand operators in Python. Fine. So let's say if I say what is the value of 2 plus equals to 3. So let's say we have variable 2x equals to 2 and I say ix plus equals to 3. then x becomes 5. So it basically means x equals to x plus 3. So this is how what shorthand means. So what we are doing, we are first we are generating iteration values, integer values I, starting from 0 until 4, and then we are going to the taking the value present in the location in the value present in the list numbers at location I, extracting that value and multiplying that value with 2, and again storing that value at that location in the list I, updating the value in the list. So when I is 0, we have numbers at 0 equals to 2. Then the value stored at the index 0 in the list numbers is 2 multiplied by 2, that is 4. Again, when I is 1, this value is num. So let's do this like this. Okay? When I is 0, 0, then numbers at 0, which is 2, and we instruct it to what we have to do. We have to update the value. Numbers at 0 equals to 2 into 2, which is equals to 4. When I equals to 1, then numbers at we get the value numbers at 1 equals to, which was 4, and then multiplied by 2, which is equals to 8. Similarly, so we can see as I goes from 0 to 4, the values gets doubled, and then we print updated list and we print the list numbers. So what it does is, what this program does, it takes a list of numbers and then multiplies each number by 2 and prints the updated list. So option A is correct. So someone is saying, why is I in bracket? So we already saw how to access some values from a list. So let's say our list is looks like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if I want to access the values stored in this list at some particular position, and the positions start from 0, and these positions are also called index values. So we want to access values start at particular index, let's say index 0, then we can use this square bracket operator and you can pass the index value in this. So my list at 0. Fine. So it will be a square bracket for the list. So I denotes the index value. So I is the index value, and then I can pass in the index value in this bracket. So basically, it depends on the context. When you talk about lists and strings, for lists and strings in Python, square brackets are used for slicing. Yeah, for accessing the elements slash characters of the list slash string. Okay. And these small brackets are used for calling functions or functions in Python. Okay. And we can pass function arguments in the through this through small braces. Okay, this is the difference between square and small braces. Okay. So anyone else? Do you have any doubt in this problem? Okay. Let's proceed with the next question. So, is your query resolved? Vandana, can you just type in the chat box? So we can proceed with the next question. I'm not getting any response. Great, thanks. So let's go to the next question. What will be the output of the following Python code? Okay. So what we are doing, we are using the random library. So every one of you is familiar with the random library. Is there anyone here who has not gone through the class lectures and is not familiar with the random library? Please go back to the video lectures and then you see the recording of this tutorial session. Then you will be able to understand this problem. Okay. So we are importing the random library and we are by calling the line import random, we are basically importing all the functions defined in library random. Okay. So every one of you is familiar with Python functions. Python. So we use the keyword def to define a function. So whenever you see def in a function in a Python statement, it says we are going to define a function. So def keyword is used to declare a function in Python. So def, let's and then followed by a function name. So function name. Then you use the small brackets to tell that this is a function, and you can pass any arguments if you want. So let's say if I want to pass an argument and I pass for arguments, then use the colon operator to start tell the interpreter that we are going to define the body of the function after this line. When you press enter, you have to make sure that you follow the indentation rule. For defining any blocks in Python, you have to use indents. And for this function block, we use this in tab gap to define the indent. And from this line, I can ask the function to do anything. So let's say I want to print the argument. Okay. And then let's say if I want to return 0, you can use the return keyword to return some value of the function. If you don't use the return keyword, nothing will be returned from the function. So let's call this function name, and let's pass in the argument. Let's pass in the string Ram, comma, Shyam. So I am passing a list of strings. You can see the function is printing the arguments. Let's say if I just pass a single value 1, it will print the value integer value 1. Okay. So for now, our function only accepts one argument. If you don't pass any argument, it says there is an error. If I pass more than one argument, it also says there is an error because our function is defined only for one argument. Okay, this is how to declare functions. Now, if you want to use return value from the function, then x contains no value because our function was void. So let's say I want our function to return some value. So I can use the return variable. Now, when I call my function variable, function name, and pass the argument 2 to it, x contains the value 2. So these are how functions work in Python. Okay. So let's start by reading this code. So import random, then def genetic evolution. So it's a function with the name genetic evolution, and it is in the function argument. It takes one argument named binary string. Then what we are doing, we are using mutation probability, declaring a variable that says mutation probability of 0.1. So it says you are getting a binary string. You have to mutate or change that string with the probability 0.1, and we have to do some apply some genetic evolution algorithm. So to understand what that algorithm means, you can go back to the course lecture. Then, so it basically means is you have to modify the string with some probability. That's it. So then you store the updated evolved string in the variable evolved string. So we declare a blank string named evolved string. And then for bit in binary string. So yeah, how to iterating through strings in Python. Okay. Strings in Python. Okay. So let's say if I have a string binary string and it contains the following binary values. Okay. And I want to iterate through it. I can simply use for bit in binary string. So till now, what we are doing, we were iterating through some integer values. Okay. And then we were doing some operations. You can also iterate through values stored in a string or a list using this format. So for bit in binary string, then you can simply print the bit. So you can see it has printed these bits. So this is how you iterate through elements of a string. So you can, instead of bit, you can use I also. So bit here is just a variable. You can use I also. Okay. So this is how you iterate through elements of a string. Fine. Okay. So let's go back to our code. So where were we? We were iterating through each and every element present in this character present in the string, binary string. And for in each iteration, the variable bit contains a particular binary string, character of the binary string. Then we are calling the function random.random. So let's see what does this function do. So let's import function random library and then call random.random. So what it does is, let's do one thing. For bit in binary string, print random.random and end with space. Okay. So you can see what the program is doing. It is iterating through every character in the binary string binary string. Okay. And for each character, what it is doing, it is printing some random value between 0 and 1. Okay. By the using the function called random.random. So basically random.random, what it does is it returns a random float value between 0 and 1. Okay. So what you have to do, if random.random is less than mutation probability, if the value is less than 0.1, mutation probability is a variable. So these are random values. If mutation probability is less than random.random, the randomly generated floating value is less than 0.1, we have to append something to the evolved string. So the evolved string, we have to append 1 if the bit was 0, else we have to append 0. Else we have to append the bit itself. Then finally, we have to return the evolved string. So every one of you, are you familiar with this operation? What we are doing here? Let's say if I define equals to blank, and if I say, and if I declare x equals to 0.1, or maybe mutation probability to 0.1, and I declare some random value, random.random, okay? And if then evolved string plus equals to 1 if x is less than mutation probability, else append 0 to it. So everyone, are you familiar with this operation? What is being done here? So when you print the value stored in the evolved string, you can see it is storing 0. And when you print x, it is 0.47. So what is happening here? No. So let me do this one thing. Let's say if I, I want to say if x is less than mutation probability, append 1 to the blank string evolved string, else append 0. Okay. So how to write this logic? So you simply check if x is less than mutation probability, then we have to append string is equals to 1. Else you have to store string equals to 0. Okay. When now you print evolved string, you see it contains 0. When you check x and mutation probability values, you can see x is 0.4757 and mutation probability is 0.1. So if condition is false, thus else condition is being executed, and our variable evolved string contains the value 0. So a shortcut to do this is simply in a single line. What you can do, you simply say evolved string equals to 1 if x is less than mutation probability, else you store the value 0 to this variable. Okay. Now when you check the value of evolved string, it is again 0. So it is basically doing the same operation as these if else statements in single line. Okay, everyone. Sir, are we making evolve string 0 or appending 0? So for now we are making it 0, not appending anything to it. So every one of you now, are you familiar with this? How this single line if else works? Fine. So now what we are doing, if the generated random value, random.random is less than mutation probability, you have to append once to the evolve string, else you have to append 1 if bit is 0, or you have to append 0 if the bit is 1. If the random value is greater than mutation probability, you have to simply append the bit value to the evolved string. And finally, you have to return the evolved string. Now, what you do, you declare an initial string variable containing all zeros, and you store the result of calling the function genetic evolution over the initial string in the variable result, and print the variable result. So what it will do, with given probability, the random probability that is 0.1, it will either flip the values or contain the same values. So what are the values the variable can store? Option C is correct. This is because the value generated by this random function is completely arbitrary. And if that value is less than mutation probability, then what you have to do, you have to flip the bit and then store it in the evolved string. Otherwise, don't have to flip the bit. So it will result in some random string containing zeros and ones. Okay. So does anyone have any doubt in this question, or should I proceed? Okay, fine. So I think we can safely proceed further. So let's see this code. Let's proceed to question number 6. Okay. We have declared an empty string numbers, and then so just wait a minute. So yeah, I think this will help. So we have declared a blank string numbers here, and it is blank right now. Now we are asking the user to give some input, enter the number of elements in this string n. ठीक है. And then we are appending that, getting that input from the user, transforming, converting it into an integer variable, and storing in another variable named num. And then we are appending that number integer value into the numbers list. Then what we are doing, we are using a sum function, calling the sum function over this list numbers. And then we are declaring another variable average here that stores result by n. So let's see what's going on. So, so the first line is get the number of elements in the variable, and then iterate from 0 till n and take user input, take integer input from the user, trans then typecast it to integer and store in the variable item. Then what you have to do? You have to append that item value in the variable number num. Then what you have to do? Append the value stored in variable num to the list numbers. Okay. So now the list numbers contain some integer values. Now what we are calling a function sum over these numbers and storing those values into the result variable. So declare new variable result equals to sum of the numbers. Okay. So what it will do, it will add all the elements present in the list numbers. Then we declare another variable average. Average equals to result divided by n. Then we are printing the values stored in the variables result and the average, saying sum of the numbers is result and average of the numbers is average. Okay. So everyone, are you able to understand this code? The code is simply taking integer values as input from the user, adding those values and storing those values in the result variable result, and then printing the values. So the correct answer, anyone? So everyone, can you just answer this question? What is the program is doing? What is the answer? No, the answer is not correct. Because first we are taking the count of the elements, no, in the variable n. Then we are computing the sum of the elements and then printing the sum along with the average. Text list of the elements input computes. So option B is correct. So it takes count of the elements, takes a lists of the elements as input, computes the sum of the elements, and then prints the average along with the sum. Okay. So yeah, anyone do you have any doubts, or we shall proceed further? Fine. So let's move with the next question. So what will be the output of the following Python code? Import random. We are defining a function named permutation example and taking a word as an input. Word is an argument here. Then we are creating a list. Word list equals to a list of words. So we are anything that is stored in the argument word is being converted into a list and stored in the variable word list. Then we are calling the function random.shuffle. So let's see what does this function do. So let's say we have a word that contains Python. Okay. Now what we are doing, we are creating a word list of word. Okay. Then we are calling random.shuffle over the word list. Random.shuffle over the word list. So what does it do? It first, when you check the word list, whenever you call the list function over a string variable, it converts its elements, it converts its characters into a list. Okay. So when you say this word list, it converts it into a list. All the characters are converted into a list of characters. Then we are calling random.shuffle over this word list. So what does random.shuffle does? It randomly jumbles these characters, permutes these characters, and then returns some random in them in some random order. Okay. So let's see what's going on here. So after we have shuffled these characters, we join them together. So this is the syntax: shuffled word equals to blank. So blank string dot join word list. So what it does, it joins all the elements present in the list word list with a blank character and then return that shuffled word. So what this program is doing, it is what it is doing. Can anyone tell me? The correct answer is option B. It is generating a random permutation of the letters in the word Python. Okay. Yeah. Let's proceed to the next question. Does anyone have any doubts, or we can proceed further? Okay. Let's move on to the next question. So consider the following code snippet. We have a numbers list, numbers contains the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we are creating a blank list, new numbers here. So you can see the new numbers list here, which is a blank list. Then what we are doing, we are iterating through each element of the list using a for loop. So we are saying for num in numbers. So numbers is a list, and in each iteration we get each element one element of the list numbers. What we are doing in the list, we are using insert function, new numbers dot insert, add the index 0 num, and then we print the new number. So let's see what this insert function does. So let's say numbers is a list that contains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry. Okay. And we call it new numbers is a blank list. So let's see what does insert function does. Dot insert. We need to pass some index. So yeah, when you look at this definition of this function, it takes in two arguments. One is index, the index at which we want to insert some element, and then the element value. So let's say I want to enter the value numbers at 0. Okay. So now when you print new numbers, it no longer is a blank string. It contains some value. That value is the numbers at 0. Okay? So what it does is it inserts a new value at the given index location, the insert function. So for each number in the list numbers, what you have to do, you have to insert at the 0th index in the new numbers list. Okay? And then we are printing the new numbers list. So let's see what it does. So currently new numbers is a blank list. And then what you do new numbers dot insert at index 0. You are inserting number. So starting from 1 2 3 4 5, you are inserting those values. So first it will insert 1. So now the new numbers what will look like. So the list new numbers will be 1. Now again, when you call new numbers dot insert at index 0, you insert 2. That is the next number in the list numbers. It will update the values in the new list new numbers like this. It will become 1 2 comma 1 because you are inserting at the index 0 and you are inserting the value 2, and this is how this loop will go on. So can anyone tell me what this function will do, what this program will do? So for each number in the list numbers, what you are doing, you are extracting the number value and inserting it at the index 0 of the new blank string named new numbers. So what it is doing, can anyone tell me? Option A. Yeah, option A is correct. Similarly, option B is also correct. Reverses the numbers list and stored in the new numbers, or it creates an empty list named new numbers and append elements from numbers to it in the reverse order. So options A and B. Okay. So does anyone have any doubt? Okay. So let's move on to the next question. Question number 9. So which one of the following are the examples of social computing slash crowd computing? So in the lectures, you already saw what is the meaning of crowd computing. So basically, you take opinions. You need a platform where you can take opinion from the users. In the lectures, you saw Facebook an example. Similar examples are Wikipedia, Stack Engine, and Quora. So all the options are correct. Okay. At all of these platforms, what you can do, you can post some problems and take opinions from the users. Okay. So let's move on to the last question for this session. So consider the following code snippet. For I in range 1 to 21, so it will generate iterate through numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 20. What you have to do, if I is divisible by 3, so I modulo 3 is 0, and I remainder of dividing I by 5 is also 0, then you have to print fizz buzz. And if I modulo 3 is 0, print fizz. And if I modulo 5 is 0, print buzz, else print I. So let's see what this program does. So let's say when I is 0, then both I modulo 3 is 0 and I modulo 5 is also 0. So what it does, it prints fizz buzz. Now, if I equals to 1, what is the value of I modulo 3? I modulo 3 is 1. I modulo 5 is also 1. So is the first if condition true? No. Is the second if condition true? No. Similarly, the third is also not true. So else part gets executed and the program prints 1. Similarly, when I equals to 2, then again it prints 2. But when I becomes 3, then I modulo 3 is 0, but I modulo 5 is not 0. So this part does not get executed and else part gets continues. In the elif part, you get I modulo 3 equals to 0. Yeah, I modulo 3 is 0. So what does we have to do? We have to print face. So what you have to do? You have to print face. That's it. Then when again I equals to 4, it is neither divisible by 3, neither 4. So it prints 4. When again I becomes 5, then 5, it is not divisible by 3, but it is divisible by 5. So bus gets printed. Then when I becomes 6, 7, 8. In these cases, none of the if conditions are true. So 6 and 7, 8 gets printed. When I becomes 9, again, what happens? Fizz gets printed because it is not divisible by 5 and it is divisible by 3 only, and so on. So what does this code do? So whenever the input is divisible by 5 and 3 both, you have to print fizzbuzz. If it is divisible only by 3, you have to print fizz. If it is divisible only by 5, it prints buzz. And if it is not divisible by neither of 5 or 3, you have to print the number. So let's see what the options say. Prints numbers from 1 to 20, replacing multiples of 3 with fizz, multiples of 5 with buzz, and multiples of both 3 and 5 with fizz buzz. This is incorrect because multiples of both 3 and 5 are also multiples of 3 as well as multiples of 5. This is not what our program is doing. It is printing fizz only for those lines where I is only divisible by 3 and not divisible by 5. Okay? It is not printing fizz buzz also. Print numbers from 1 to 20, replacing multiples of 3 and 5 with fizz buzz, multiples of 3 with fizz, and multiples of 5 with buzz. So option B is correct. Okay? Okay? Yeah. Fine. So anyone, do you have any problem in this program? Fine. So so these were all the basic problems that I wanted to discuss for this session. After this, I will take some questions from you guys. So let's take a break for 5 minutes. So we'll resume at 7:30. 30. Okay. Type all your queries. Hello, hello. So hi everyone. Sorry, actually I was occupied. I was like stuck in something. So yeah, there were some network issues. Okay. So I guess someone is asking which book you recommend to study from. So um, I suggest I don't have any reference books right now in my mind. You can look at those NPTEL course page where they might have shared some useful links. Yeah, fine. So no one, you all have no other doubts that you want to ask. Like I can anything that you have seen in those class lectures or in these tutorial sessions, you can ask me. So I believe there are no other questions. So let's solve one. Sir, will Scratch come in exam? I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know basically. I am not affiliated with NPTEL team. So these problems are created by the NPTEL team. So you can ask them over the Q&A forum. Okay. So I wanted to show something to you guys. So in Python. Till now, what all the problems that we were seeing were. So just a second. Let me take my charger. Yeah. So till now, whatever problems we saw was were programming problems. We were given some programs and we had to extract the answers. Like we have to check what are the answers coming from those programs. So now what I am going to do is I am going to write a Python program from scratch where we will be solving some of the problems stated in as in the problem statement. So the first problem that says is you are given a list of marks that has list named marks that has the marks scored by a class of students in a mathematics test. Find the median marks and stored in a float variable named median. You can assume that marks is a list of float values. So you are given a list of floats that is named marks. It contains the marks scored by a class of students in some particular course. And then your task is to find the median marks and store that extract the median marks from that list and then store that into the list of float value. Okay. So everyone, are you familiar with the idea of um, are you familiar with the idea of mean, median, and mode? Fine. So let's say you have a list of string. So let's get back to our program. So let's say you have a float of marks. You have a list marks. So let's say we have total 10 students. Number of students per student. Let's say we have 10 students and we have a list named marks that contains their marks out of 10, let's say. Okay. So let's say the first student scores 8 out of 10. Second student scores, let's use some random distribution to generate these marks. Okay. Everyone, can we proceed with that? So let's declare a blank list marks equals to blank. Now for I, for student in range number of dents, what you have to do? You have to append some floating values to this marks array. So I can use the random function. And since the maximum value is from 0 to 10, we and random returns a float value between 0 to 1, we can scale the value by 10. Okay. So now when you check the marks array, it contains some random values generated between 0 to 10. Okay. So these are the values stored in the array marks. So these are the marks scored by 10 students. So now what we have to do? So the most basic thing with any data that you can do is simply plot it to look to check how it looks like. So matplotlib dot pyplot as plt. And the library that we'll be using for plotting data in Python is matplotlib. From library matplotlib.pyplot import pyplot library module and use the alias plt to refer to it. How to use plt? You can use plt.plot to plot some values, and we can pass the marks vary. And let's see if there is some plot pane here. Okay. Huh. So when you looked at this plots value, you can see it plots these values. Okay. If you want to understand how plot works, it's really simple. Let's say I want to plot some values like this. For given x values, we have x1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have a function y that contains the squared out values 4. So 1, 4, 9, 16, and then 25. So plt.plot and pass the x values and the y values as lists, and you will see you get this plot. Okay. So this is how plt.plot works to checking the values. So we want to see the values present in the marks array. How do they look like? You can see the values looks like this. Okay. Some student number 0 has obtained some marks, 1 has 2, and so on. Okay. So this is how we visualize the values. Okay. Then how to compute the median? The first thing is how to compute the median marks. The how to compute median? Can anyone tell me? So what is the median value? Value present present at the center of a list of a sorted list of numbers of a sorted list. Okay, that is the median value. So let's say we have a list that contains the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then and comma 9. Then the median value is 5. There are a total of 4 values less than 5 in this list, and similarly there are 4 values greater than 5 in this list. So this is how we compute median. If the length of the list is odd, then we take the central value. If the length of list is even, then either we can take the average of the middle two values, or we can take the smaller of them or the larger one of them. Okay. So these are the rules for computing median. Okay. Let's see what our program says. Our program says sort the marks in ascending order. If the number of students is odd, then the median is the middle value. If the number of students in even, the median is the arithmetic mean of the sorted sequence. Okay. So for you guys, the problem is do not try to use built-in methods, but for the sake of this tutorial, I can use built-in sort function. So for any list, let's say we have a marks list, we can use marks dot sort to sort the list. So when you now when you plot the list marks, you will see that the values are sorted in ascending order. Now what we have to do, we have to check the size of the list. So length of the list is len. We call the len function over the list marks. So what does len function use? Does it takes a list as an argument or a string as an argument and returns the total number of elements in that list or a string. So when you check the length, it says total 10. Okay. And let's declare a variable median index. Okay. And let's declare a list because if the length is even, then we might get a list. So if length modulo 2 is 0, then this means the list is an even length. Then the median index is length is a list containing these two values, length divided by 2 and the integer value of this and integer value of length divided by 2 plus 1. Okay. 10 by 5, 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Else simply median index is equals to int of length divided by 2. Okay. Now, what should be the what values should we take for I in median index? What we have to do to, let's say, for this, what we need to do? We need to store the median value. Na? So the median value, let's declare it as 0. Then for I in median index, if it is odd length list, we get two values and we have to sum them up. So what we have to do, median value plus is equals to 0.5. So weightage is 0.5 into marks list at I. Okay, that's it. So it will do. No, no. So the better way would be plus equals to marks at I divided by length of median index. Median index list. So let's see what it does. Now let's print the median value. And you can see the median value is 7.9565. So 47. So yeah. So there are few changes that you need to make because our list is even length. So when you divide 10 by 5, you go to index 5. So you have to take 5 and 4, not 5 and 6. So that's why there should be int length by 2 minus 1 here. And that's it. That's what we need to change. ठीक है. Then what you have to print? Marks, simply median value. Let's see the value of median value. अच्छा. And then do this, then do this, and finally print the median value. Okay, sorry. Now the median value is correct. So let's see what we did here. So let's say we declare a marks list. It is a blank. Huh? We import random. Then we define the total number of students. Let's say we want to define the number of students by taking input from the user. So int input, enter the total number of students. Okay. Then what you need to do? You need to generate some random value, the marks between 0 and 10 for all the students and append them to the marks array. So random multiplied by 10. Okay. So now you get the marks array. Then what you do? You plot the marks array to see how it looks like. Okay. Let's run this code and let's see what does it look like. So let's say we have total 100 students. Yeah. So you can see the plot looks like this. Fine. Now what we have to do? We have to compute the median value. So let's compute the length of the list. So we know n is the length of the list. So if n modulo 2 is 0, this means it is an even list. Okay. So what we need to do? Let's say we save the median value. Okay. Now, if it is even, then we take the middle two values and sum them up. So basically, median value is equals to marks at integer of n divided by 2 plus marks at integer of n divided by 2 minus 1, and then divide the median value by 2 to get the arithmetic mean divided by 2.0. Okay. Else the median value is simply marks at int of n divided by 2. Okay. And finally print the median value. And in the plot also we can mark this median value. So one of the most important thing is first we need to sort the list. So let's use the sort function, marks.sort. Okay. And then plt.plot, add the location int n by 2. The value has to be okay. And let's give this a nice shape. So you can see it shows that the median values look placed in this location. Let's do a bit of debugging and let's see. ठीक है. So it is saying the median value is 11, which is not possible. So I'm definitely making some. Huh. So this was the mistake. I was not dividing the value by 2. Okay. So let's say for 10. Huh. Now it's correct. For 100, it's also correct. So this is how you do this operation. So in the figure plot also you can see we have highlighted the block value where we get the median value. So you can see half of the values below this point are less than this, and half of the values above this point are greater than this value. So you are asking me what is G, and so this is basically a way how to way to show triangles in a matplotlib plot. So this was explained in your NPTEL lecture classes also. Fine. So yeah, it's already 7:56. So if you have any doubts, you can type in the chat box or we can end this session. Okay. So in line number 18, what I'm doing is I'm plotting I'm plotting a triangle at x value is INTN by 2, basically center of the x-axis, x values and the median value. So x coordinate and y coordinate at this coordinate location, I am plotting. I'm just showing this rectangle, triangle. That's it. The question is this. So you are given a list marks that contains the marks scored by a class of students in a mathematics test. Find the median marks and store it in a float variable named median. You can assume the marks are a list of float values. And this is the procedure how to do this. Okay. So I have few more questions for you guys that you can do as a practice. So I will share all this information with you guys. Okay. So it's already 8. So let's end this session for today. So I'm not sure what is the pattern of NPTEL examination. So you can ask the NPTEL team for that. So yeah, thank you all.